The Department of National Defense has informed me that Global Affairs is going to block access to information filings because, according to the ministry, China is a little prickly right now. No, I don't believe for a second that that's the real reason. But even if I concede it were, that's still not a reason to act like China and block a journalist from documents here in Canada. Today, I'll show you the CCP-style reply I just got back from the Trudeau government.
Hey, guys, hey, we have respect for journalists in this country. They ask tough questions and they're supposed to, okay? Sorry.
Today's story is made possible only through your generous crowdfunded donations to our special fund at rebelinvestigates.com. So thank you in advance to everyone who offsets our research and filing costs. As you know, we are completely independent of the government. We would never take a penny from Justin Trudeau. And how could we? How could we ever hold him to account if we did? The story also requires a tiny backstory explainer here. As you know, Justin Trudeau and his government are currently under fire for allowing China to influence election outcomes here in Canada, while the Liberals also simultaneously accuse everyone who opposes the Liberals of being Russian operatives without any proof whatsoever.
But there is concern that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
Well, again, I'm going to defer to our partners in the public safety, the trained officials and experts in that area.
On the flip side, the Liberals are accused of being fully aware they were benefiting from foreign meddling. So to be clear, they are not accused of being asleep at the switch and inadvertently benefiting from Chinese influence, but of something much worse, ensuring a minority Liberal government thanks to CCP meddling. Liberal MP for Don Valley North, Han Dong, is one of 11 candidates the CSIS whistleblower has said was the beneficiary of Chinese communist influence in favor of the Liberals. It's alleged that CSIS told senior Liberal Party brass to block Dong's nomination on national security concerns, but Trudeau himself intervened to save Dong and his minority government, sacrificing Canadian election integrity just to hang on to power. So shameless. Now, you can learn more and take action at firedong.com. But this is not the only time Trudeau's government got a little too chummy with the CCP. Remember this from a couple of years ago? It was in the Globe and Mail. The Department of Global Affairs pushed back against a decision last year by Canada's top soldier to cut back on interactions with China's People's Liberation Army, warning Beijing might consider this a reprisal for the arbitrary arrest of 2 Canadians. Government documents seen by the Globe and Mail and marked secret and for Canadian eyes only show that officials at the highest levels of global affairs were alarmed that General Vance, chief of the defense staff, had canceled winter military exercises with the PLA in 2019. The United States had raised concerns about joint military exercises that could benefit the PLA, according to the documents. Should Canada make any significant reductions in its military engagement with China, China would likely read this as a retaliatory move related to the Meng Wanzhou case, a February 2019 memo to Ian Sugar, then Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, outlining the case for a letter he would be sending to Jody Thomas, Deputy Minister of the Department of National Defense. A senior government official said General Vance, on the urgings of the United States, canceled winter exercises with the PLA and later all military interactions. General Vance did allow Canadian Armed Forces personnel to compete at the 2019 Military World Games held in Wuhan, China that October. The Globe and Mail is not identifying the source, who was not authorized to speak publicly about national security issues. So naturally, I wanted to know more. I bet you do too. So I filed for access to information. Again, thanks to your generous donations to rebelinvestigates.com. So here's what I asked for. I asked for copies of documents regarding all training exercises in Canada that included personnel from the Chinese military since November 4th, 2015, so since Trudeau was first elected, including information on the approximate date, the number of participants from the Chinese military, accommodations, costs involved, and the names and ranks of the participants. I also wanted the government to provide copies of all documents, including memos, briefing notes, emails, texts, or instant messages, WhatsApp messages, Slack messages, media lines, reports, etc., regarding Chinese participation in winter survival training at CFB Petawawa, as reported here. And I wanted all the documents since January 1st, 2015. So I would probably catch the Harper years too. Now, Here's the response I got back from a surprisingly candid bureaucrat at the Department of National Defense. Not because I believe the excuse being provided here, but because I think he's being pretty honest with the timeline and my chances of ever seeing these documents. Take a look. I had the chance to quickly review the material and noted significant severance recommendations from the international affairs perspective, where I believe the majority of the information dealing with direct contact between the PLA and CAF will have to undergo a consultation with Global Affairs Canada. With the current political international situation with China, I suspect that any consultation with regards to the Chinese government will take years to obtain a response, if at all. My question is, do you still require this information? You betcha. And if so, are you willing to agree to removing portions that require a Government of Canada consultation? Probably not. So to be clear, the Department of National Affairs says Global Affairs is probably going to block forever any access to information filings dealing with China because of the, quote, political international situation. Now, I must have missed the section of the Access to Information Act over these past 8 years that says you don't have to release documents if China's mad about something. Now, do you believe that excuse, that it's all related to the international political situation? Or are you a bit of a skeptic like me and think this has a lot more to do with the domestic political situation the Liberals currently find themselves in? I think they are filibustering access to these documents in the same way they have been shamelessly filibustering any examination whatsoever into the Liberals reaping the benefits of CCP influence in Canadian elections, as is what's happening currently in the House of Commons. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. This story today is made possible through your generous donations to our special investigations fund at rebelinvestigates.com. I couldn't do any of this work without you, so thank you in advance for helping me get transparency and answers from the Canadian government. Again, that website is rebelinvestigates.com.